Hey, James. I think we have blockbuster trade just happened.
Hey, James, we have some breaking news. Sauce Gardner was just dealt to the Indianapolis Colts.
What?
Okay.
Sauce Gardner has been traded
Richie's
to
heart just
the
dropped.
Indianapolis Colts. We heard that the Colts were looking for a cornerback.
They were.
Are you kidding me?
I did not have seen this coming. I did not see this coming at all.
When I talk about teams that are in a position of rarity that we've seen, and they have a position to make something happen, like we're talking about with Denver, and them potentially making a splash because of where they are in their division. Look at the Indianapolis Colts and where they are in their division, and how they're running away with that spot right now at 7-2. But they needed help on their back end. I think they saw that. But the part that shocks me here is Chris Ballard, in his 8 years as the general manager there in Indianapolis, has only made one trade, really, at the deadline. And that was Nyheim Hines in 2022, if I remember, where he requested to be traded. This is out of the ordinary for Chris Ballard, but everybody was curious if he was going to go out and make a move and kind of break precedent of what he's usually used to doing, because of where the Indianapolis Colts are sitting. And we all knew it was going to be on the defensive side of the ball. They were sniffing around at pass rushers, to my understanding. They were looking at maybe somebody that could come up like an Arden Key or something like that. They could be part of their rotation up front and maybe make them a little bit better at getting after the quarterback. But the number of injuries they've had in the secondary and the issues they've had in the secondary, I thought they'd try to make a move. There has been slim pickings, honestly, in terms of corners that are available. Well, you go and you go get one of the best ones in football. Now, I will say this. There are people I talk to around the league that are torn on Sauce Gardner, Some still think he's part of that top group. Some think he is not part of that top group anymore. I'm curious, when a new regime comes in, that's always something that it gets evaluated. But this is also a new regime that came in and gave him a new contract. So this is an interesting move. But you also have a quarterback that is on somewhat of a bargain, right? You're not paying a massive quarterback contract. And so you have some leeway to make some kind of acquisitions in this sense. When I look at where I was trying to see where they're at. They're not. I mean, they have some of the least amount of cap space available. So we'll see what ends up happening with how they make this work. But that's a massive move. That is a massive move, and it looks like
two first round picks
right now a team going for it. You have a team going for it right now. And if it's 2 first-round picks, is that what you're saying? Because I'm watching you guys. I'm not seeing any screen right now.
Yeah. 2 first-round picks.
It's 2 first-round picks. And so I saw Richie's soul leave him the second that we announced that.
Yeah.
So what does that also tell you? What does that also tell you how they feel about Daniel Jones?
They're going all in.
And that he's their guy.
They're not in the market for a quarterback. He's their guy. They're not in the market for a quarterback. The prove-it aspect of Daniel Jones winning this job, it appears when you give away your first-round picks like this, you know it's not Anthony Richardson. You know you now have your quarterback not for 2025, for 26, and maybe for 27.
Wow.
They had already had some discussions, just very preliminary discussions, with Daniel Jones about potentially having a contract extension, and those were kind of recent. So this all does kind of add up going, okay, if we have our team built the way they're built, and we have some young talent like a Tyler Warren and certain guys that are on rookie deals, and a not overly priced receiver core, and not an overly priced quarterback, you make a big move, big splash.
Yeah.
Whoa. Wow.
And to adding this guy right to the secondary, like we're talking about a team that was top 10 in EPA and second in the NFL secondary-wise in DVOA. Now you add Sauce Gardner into the conversation. I think it might be time for us to start buying into this Indianapolis Colts team. It's taken a while, but now I think it's official.
I think so.
Does this make them Super Bowl contenders? Like, that's the question.
I think last week was a blip. I think if you look at the way they're built, when I talk to teams that have faced, it's not that they're balanced on offense. They have the ability to come to the line of scrimmage and see what you do and just switch to the opposite. Obviously, you have the best running back in football, in all honesty, right now in Jonathan Taylor. You have a receiving core where you don't need to force the football anywhere. Everybody knows their role and what they do. You have a tight end that I think has transformed the offense when you have a type of player that can be on the field. They run behind Tyler Ward. I mean, they literally have run plays designed directly behind him, and then he can also catch the football and line up anywhere on the field. They have everything you're looking for and a really good decision maker at the quarterback spot. I think what we just had forgotten over the last couple of seasons is that Shane Steichen is a really good play caller. If you remember his last year in Philly, he was outstanding. If you remember with the Chargers, he was outstanding. He's a really good play caller. He just had nobody to run it. And so I do think they feel Like, they are built in a fashion to win in a variety of ways. You can try to take one aspect away, and I think they can beat you in another direction. I just think they knew that their defense in the secondary was just so banged up. I mean, Kenny Moore's been injured, and he's one of the best slots in all of football, playing on the inside there. Like, I think they just were like, you know what? We're going to go for it. And, hey, I love when teams get aggressive like this. This is, again, not the way Chris Ballard usually works. And that's why it's the most surprising thing, because with this stuff, guys, we always look at tendencies in general managers, and this is outside of a tendency for Chris Ballard.
Why would Aaron Glenn and the New York Jets decide to part ways with Sauce Gardner after giving him a long-term extension in the summer?
Yeah, and again, this is just my opinion. I haven't talked to, obviously this has happened while we're on here, so this is my opinion, not anybody I've talked to in New York by any stretch. But I do think there was a thought when you come in as a regime that you want to sign your cornerstone players and show everybody that if you're drafted here, you play well, you get a contract, and that likes to be established by a new general manager and a new head coach. And you did it with Garrett Wilson and Sauce Gardner. But then I would assume what has happened is they've watched Sauce play. They've watched where their organization is. And then sometimes there are teams that do evaluate going, having a high price cornerback when you're not a competitor is not really necessary. It's almost a luxury, because what happens when the rest of your defense is not very good? Okay, we're paying one of the highest salaries at the position at a cornerback spot. And what can the offense do? Just avoid him and just go somewhere else. And so oftentimes there are teams that look at that thinking, combined with the fact that they do not have a solution at quarterback, and now you give yourself ammunition to be more aggressive towards a quarterback in 2026 and 2027. Now, granted, it's early, but the class of 26 doesn't seem to be wowing really anybody at the quarterback spot. But now you do have capital in the draft, capital in a variety of ways to try to make yourself more aggressive towards landing that quarterback spot. And if he's not part of what you think might be a longer rebuild, that thinking I mentioned about the cornerback spot does change a little bit, going, if we're not close, having a high-priced talent, who Sauce is that certainly, that doesn't touch the football and can be avoided by offenses, is that worth having right now? Man, we love you. We like you as a player, but what we're trying to rebuild right now, are you more valuable in terms of assets in where we're going? I don't know. I know some teams think that way. That they're kind of like closers in baseball. Like, if you're not a good team in baseball, what do you need a great closer for? Like, it's similar.
No, it makes sense from that perspective. It's just completely blindsided. I think every single
it is wild.
Jets
I mean, it is
fan
wild.
right
I'm
now.
not saying it's not. Yeah.
Oh no, trust me. I know you're not saying
wild,
that.
But yeah.
And now the Indianapolis Colts, it just gets a 2-time first-team All-Pro, and now they're going all in for Sauce Gardner. You're talking about a blockbuster. It was all quiet. We're sitting here on this trade deadline stream waiting.
Quiet.
We're talking about hot takes. We're waiting for James to give us some news, and then that comes out of absolutely nowhere. And the funny thing is, Sauce sent this tweet out, New York, it's been real. I quote tweeted like, "Stop trolling with us, Sauce." And then 2 minutes later, he's gone. And I responded, he wasn't trolling.